Welcome to today's call, Vertical Mindset, that we have every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The times are changing a little bit. I'm not sure if this call would change or not, but as you know, Hack Mankind is going to be having our Hack Mankind 2.0 version, where we'll be storing all the recordings. You'll have access to everything backstage and also to our panelists, our amazing advocates, and Sarah. Amazing accessibility, I would say, by just heading on over to www.hackmankind.com, and you have access to these wonderful people, wonderful Sarah, where you can ask her all your questions and listen to all the previous recordings. So yes, hi Sarah, how you doing?
Aloha, I'm so good. Welcome to Monday. So it's the best day of the week.
Yes, and happy Memorial Day for those just tuning in today. Hoping you're having an amazing long weekend, although all these days kind of seem to like mishmash together for me. I don't know about for you.
Absolutely. Yesterday I started doing an IG live and I said, aloha, welcome to Monday. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong day of the week. It's Sunday. We're not even in Monday yet. So yeah, they're all starting to blend.
Just happens. And so one of the things we were talking, as I was mentioning on the backstage area, is I was complaining, I was venting. I just moved to Florida and I'm saying, gosh, things taking so slow. So I just realized how much of a New Yorker I became by living in New York, because everything you walk, just even the way we walk when we go places, we walk super fast. I remember at the time I would be walking with my husband, and he's a New Yorker, so total New Yorker, and he walks really, really fast. And so I'd be like, we're just going for a walk. Why are we walking this fast? And now I realize I've become like this. So I'm on the phone and I'm setting up my internet for my new apartment that I have here in Miami. And oh my goodness, it took me nearly an hour, like literally nearly an hour. And it totally ties into the theme of today's call, because Sarah, you were telling me how when you moved to Maui, it's like Maui time. Like nobody seems to own a clock. And somebody gently reminded you. What did they remind you of?
Well, it wasn't gently. I think that it was very like that. This is coming from a loving place, but this is stern. So yeah, here they call it island time. And I remember getting here and I'm like, people just don't own a clock. Like everyone's always late. They're always running late, but no one seems to mind. Like, why is no one upset? And then when you drive, it's actually pretty cool because they say it's driving with aloha. So as you're driving down the road, like, you know, if anyone is about to pull out, it doesn't matter. Come on through. And they're waving the shaka. And it's just like, everyone's on this real slow pace. And even the highway here, the one highway we have, it's 2 lanes. Okay, so that's how much of a highway we have. And the speed limit is like 45 miles per hour, and everything is just so slow. And you find yourself starting to get frustrated. And there's a bumper sticker here that's everywhere, and it says, "Slow down. This ain't the mainland." So it's everywhere. It's this slow down mentality. And these friends of ours who had also moved from Utah as well, but we didn't know them before Utah, met them here, and they just said, remember why you moved here. You moved here for the slower pace. You moved here because it is more relaxed. Like, embrace it, because as soon as you start to resist, that's when you're going to get pissed off. So it was just this great reminder, and I'm glad that we got the reminder as quickly as we did, because that was just like, oh yeah, like, slow down. This ain't the mainland. Like, this is why we moved here. So yeah, I think that we all sometimes need that reminder of why we wanted something in the first place, because sometimes we start to want something, and then when we get it, we either want something else, or we want back where we came from because it was familiar. So remember why you're craving the change. Remember why you did it in the first place.
Amazing. And so so it totally ties into today's subject of let it go, let it go. I can't sing, but you know what movie I'm referring to? Frozen, and it's a beautiful song. And I'm having to let it go. So you actually moved to Maui. And I
Mhm.
moved here to Florida, and it was a conscious choice. And we're like, okay, gotta accept the environment. You know, you want the good stuff, you gotta accept both sides, right? And so, what happens now when everything's come to a halt, or a lot of things have? We're all home, and it's not necessarily been our choice. It hasn't been our choice. What's your recommendation where everything is slowing down, or we maybe should slow down? So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so this I'm really excited about because I had a really firsthand experience with a change last week, a change in my perspective about something. So I think that right now people are having this, they're telling themselves this story that things have been ripped away from them. And we know how that is. I mean, you even look at a kid, like when you say, give me the toy versus you ripping that out of their hand, there's a very different response. The outcome's still the same. I still have the toy, you don't, but the response is much different when we feel like something's been ripped away, something has been taken away versus us giving it away and laying it down and saying, there you go. And so I was having a struggle last week in something very in particular. And I was like, I'm so frustrated. I feel like something's been taken away from me. And I worked with it with my therapist. I love what she does because I've talked about this before on the call, but she does something called parts work where we sort of address the part of me that is struggling with it, because not all of me is struggling with it. And then she also takes you into sort of this meditative space. And it's sort of close your eyes, let's sort of tap into that part of you that is struggling, and like what are they needing? And a lot of times I will, whenever working with her, I immediately start to break down because there's this, all of a sudden I feel really seen. I feel really heard. I feel really important for what I'm going through. And I don't think we get that enough. So first and foremost, it's acknowledging the fact that we don't feel seen enough. And when we don't feel seen, don't feel heard, we're not able to voice our side of the story or our perspective on something, when we feel like something's been wronged to us, that frustrates us even more. We're like, no one's listening to me, no one's hearing me, no one's seeing me. So when I work with her, that's the first thing that always comes to mind is like, ah, I feel seen, I feel heard. Someone actually is respecting my feelings enough to see me. And I love that. And so we sort of went into this meditation, and it was beautiful because it it's not so much what's been taken away from us or we've lost, it's the story we keep telling ourselves about what's been lost. And if we continue to tell ourselves, it's such an injustice, things have been taken away, you know, it's so unright, it's so wrong, it's unright, it's so wrong, it's so horrible that something's been happening to us. And then we say, it's happening to us, it's to us, it's not happening for us. So when we tell ourselves these stories, that is what we need to let go. It's not so much what has been lost, although that's a part of it, but it's more about letting the story go about what's happened to us. And so when we can let that go, we can then make space for, okay, what is this new story that I want to take on about what's happened? And so as we did this, she said, you know, she took me through this meditation, and she says, okay, I want you to really envision the journey ahead of you. I want you to envision this long trek and where you're headed next, right? This is the next leg of your journey of life. And there at the beginning of the journey is sort of this wise soul, and they're there to accept these things that you feel like have been taken away from you. And when I went into this space and I sort of envisioned, my mind went right away to this sweet old monk. And he was such a wise soul. You could kind of see it in his face. I'm a very visual person, if you can't tell. And I went there because I saw this old soul as being so respectful of my things, my feelings. There was a respect that no matter what I gave him, there was no judgment. There was no no judgment about it. It was just, I'm here to accept those things. I'm here to put them in a safe place for you. I'm here to accept your story so you can lay it down, because the weight of it is too much to take into your journey. And so there was this visual where I got to hand over versus someone else ripping it away versus COVID taking things away. I actually got to lay these things down and hand them over. And I immediately just started bawling. And it was just this release of, oh, I can breathe. I feel space in my heart. I feel like I'm handing these things over. I'm handing the story over along with it, because that story was weighing me down. That story was making it so that it was too heavy to take into my journey. And for whatever reason, I'm not supposed to have that thing to go into the journey. So whatever you feel like you've lost in this land of COVID, whatever you feel like you've lost within your life and your life circumstances right now, if you start to think of it and reframe the story as, for whatever reason, I am not supposed to have that going into the next leg of the journey. So I'm going to lay it down because the weight of it's too much. The story I'm telling myself is too much. And I'm going to let that go so that I have space, I have lightness, I have energy to take on the journey. And for some, this might be like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. You know, she's gone into this whole meditation about letting go. I'm just mad that I lost my job, or whatever your case is. But I promise you, if you sort of close your eyes and just imagine laying it down, lay down the story, lay down the job, lay down a relationship, lay down something you've lost, someone's passed away, whatever, you lay it down instead of it feeling like it's been ripped out of your hands.
Can you explain what you mean by laying it down?
Well, I think that could be, that's kind of where I go visually. So it's more of like the letting go. So as I sort of handed it over to the monk, or you could just, if you're not super visual and you don't want to go into monk land, you could just close your eyes and imagine it in your hands, the job, the relationship, the person, the thing, the whatever, your freedom of COVID, right? Can't leave our houses. If you just imagine it in your hands, imagine it, you could imagine the word in your hand, imagine the actual thing, and just simply put it down. You putting it down versus it being taken out of your hands is a much different experience in your body. And so I'm really big on, how does this experience manifest itself in my body? Where am I feeling it in my body? Usually if I'm really stressed or feeling any kind of like pull in me, I feel it right in my gut. Feel like kind of like my insides sort of being ripped apart in really hard moments. That's what I've always felt. And so if I can lay my hand on my stomach, the other hand holding what it is that I need to let go, and include in that thing to let go the story you're telling yourself about it. So in your hand, you've got not only the circumstance, but also the story you're telling yourself. And I want you to simply put it down. And I want you to breathe that and breathe the release of it. And I promise the way that you're going to start to feel it shifting in your body, I cannot tell you the weekend I had after that experience on Friday. I kept just going to this word space. I felt like there was a space in me. I could take a full breath. I could move differently in my body. There was a space that had been opened up for me that had once been closed off and filled with this story I kept telling myself about this one situation in my life. And whatever this detail is of the situation, the story about it is still universal. The story of being able to let it go versus it being ripped out of our hands.
100%.
And so I hope that's making sense as I'm explaining it. But that was how I knew afterwards that, oh my gosh, this was life-changing. This was absolutely life-changing to be able to change the story, reframe it in my mind to letting it go versus it being taken away from me.
And I absolutely love that you had that experience, and it's something that you can use for something big. So the situation per se, I'm assuming it's something, it's like a big situation that's been really heavy on you, like somebody like passing away, losing a job, separation, whatever it is, that sounds like a big event, right? Now,
Yes.
one of the things that I know letting go for me has helped me a lot is even little things. Like how often, I mean, I'm in like writing an email. I mean, I've been trying to do this sales page, I am not telling you, for days. And just going to like having to go walk my dog. If I'm like stuck on a title or stuck on something, and just simply like I'm forced to go walk my dog, or forced to, it's shower time, I got to take a shower in the morning or whatever it is. And then suddenly the idea, the thought, sleeping on it. And the next morning, we talked about it on another call, where on one of the mornings, I was just like, I had the idea for the whole script all in one morning because I let go. I had a moment of letting, I feel like sometimes if you're finding resistance on the job per se, go do something else. Like it can take you, I can be in front of a computer for 4 or 5, 6 hours and like struggling on it. And then I go walk my dog and I'm like, oh my goodness. And then in 2 minutes, it just comes out. So if there's resistance, then finding ways to be with no tension of letting go. What do you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that we as as a society as a whole, we think that we've got so much control and that we can force things. And the biggest thing that we cannot force is the creative. Like we cannot force that. Like that has to be from inspiration, and a lot of the times it comes from our experience that the inspiration comes from. So sitting down and trying to write it out versus going out and trying to live it is a very different experience. You can have a different creative process. So I agree, and I think that we just think that we have so much in our control, and we don't. We don't have this much in control. We're not that powerful. We cannot make things happen, especially in other people, in other, in other circumstances. We don't have that power. And so I think that just this idea, it's so simple. And I love that movie portrayed it in such a way, of just letting go. She's trying, it's a kid movie, but God, it's done so well that she's trying to control it. She's trying to control it. She's putting gloves on it. She's covering it up. She's trying to control and be something that she's not. And as soon as you let that go, let that thing that we're trying to be or trying to make happen, and we just allow things to happen. I love my therapist for something she says. She says, how do you know this is the right thing? Because it's happening. How do you know you're in the right place? Because it's where you are. And so if we think in those terms that we don't even have that much control as far as where we are, we think we made all the control, but if life is happening for us in the way that it's designed, and that kind of goes more into your own beliefs, but I love that it puts that into simple terms, because whenever I feel like I'm trying to force something, no, how do I know this is right? Even though it may feel really wrong, because it's happening. And I think that I have this sweet little book. It's like a paragraph and a half of just kind of little devotional book. And I love it because it's just a very simple thought. And about 2 days ago was mind blowing. And it said, there are treasures everywhere. And a lot of these treasures will come in the form of trials. And what a beautiful flip of perspective to think that, oh man, this trial we're going through, what an incredible treasure. Because treasure is something that is found, right? Treasure is something that should be cherished. A treasure is something that we did not plan for. It was already set there for us, right? It's, go X marks the spot. It was already there. We had nothing to do with it. We just have to find it. And so if we think of these trials as treasures, and we get to uncover them, we get to unearth them, and they are there for our own good, it changes everything. And so back to what I said in the beginning, it's not so much what you feel like you've lost, it's what you're telling yourself about what you think you've lost. It's that story that you keep repeating to yourself, that you've been wronged for in some way, or that things are so unfair. And there is the sweetest YouTube video, and that's by Tom Foolery. I think we had it in our thread, of the Great Realization. And it's this man in this beautiful English accent, and he's telling the story of, the little girl says, tell the story about the virus, tell the story about the virus. And it was this great realization that this virus brought so much beauty. And, and that's why we call hindsight in 2020. And it's written so well, but that it plays into that these treasures came in the form of trials, and we had no way to see it. I mean, it's very clouded right now. We can only kind of make our way through one right step at a time. But what we can't see is this big picture and this bigger idea of what's happening for us. And that right now is a treasure in itself. But we've got kind of this split down the middle of people that feel really wronged, and then the people that are feeling like this is all happening so much for us. And what side are you on of it? And I think that that's kind of what side you'll be on of every trial. Is it happening to you? Is it happening for you? And the great thing is that you always get another chance. Every moment is another chance to retell that story to yourself and redefine what it is that's happening for you. I just love that, because when we take control of the story, that's all we've got control of, is the story that we're telling ourselves about what's happening.
Amazing. Wow. And I can remember that video. I'll look for it on our Hack Mankind. I think it was on the WhatsApp group. I think that was shared.
Yeah.
On Facebook. I forget.
I've got it on my Facebook too. I can send you the link. It's just so beautifully done.
Good. It's such a beautifully done. And we're not diminishing, I know there are a lot of people who are having a lot of pain. I always like to distinguish the pain and do we have to have this amount of deaths and all that? No, that's I'm not saying that. And, one of the quotes that I love from Byron Katie that totally matches what you're saying is, when I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time. When I argue with reality, I lose, or when I fight with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time. Because if you're arguing with reality, and that's what our stories are, right? She calls it our thoughts, believing our thoughts. And as soon as we believe our thoughts, we're creating this reality that isn't. Like, the you that you are and the you that I think you are will never meet. Everything is created through our judgments. Everything. Absolutely everything. The me that I am, nobody will actually ever know, because we're always thinking people into existence. It's like we think somebody's a certain way, right? Even people who've been in relationships for years and years and years, people who have children or parents, and yes, we know them better, and sometimes at times better than they know themselves, or at least we think we do. But that's what it is. We're thinking it into reality. I know it's a little like maybe far-fetched for some, but if really think about it, it's like who you think someone is may not actually be that. It's who you believe them to be. Anyway, so if that's true, then why don't we just create a beautiful story?
And that I think is the treasure. That right there is the treasure, is the fact that we get to retell that as many times as we need to. And I have been kind of rearranging some things, and I found an old article that I wrote, and it was about almost 3 years ago now. And the theme of the magazine was Thrive, and she asked, just write anything. It's kind of the final thought page of the magazine for that edition, and it was Thrive. And she said, what would you write about that? And when I looked up the meaning of thrive, it was to develop with vigor. And I just love that word develop, because it's just like developing our reality. And just like a photographer uses different lens, different lighting, different filters, different subjects, different everything to create a world with their photos, that's what we're doing. We're developing our world with our own filters, our lenses, how we're choosing to set up the scene, as well as what we're bringing with us of the past experiences, and all of that sort of meets in the middle, and that's what creates our reality. And it seems so simple, yet it seems so complex at the same time. Like, really? Like, this is happening right now. This feels so real. Of course it feels real. This is your life. But that story, that way that we're developing it, and just like you said, your reality, that is it, right? That's our lens that we are seeing life through. And until we start taking control of it on a conscious level, it's going to keep getting developed in a very unconscious level. And that, I think, is where the trick is becoming more aware of it, becoming more aware of, like, why is this affecting me in this way? What am I telling myself? What is it on repeat in my head about this certain situation or this circumstance that is making it so that I can't move forward, or I can't let go, or that I feel so angry or feel so wronged? That until we get really aware of that, then we're going to keep putting it on repeat, and then we're just bringing all of our past crap with us. And I forget the quote, but it was basically, things are going to continue to repeat until you learn. Like, until you learn the lesson, those old stories are going to keep happening to you, and you're going to keep drawing them into your life and keep creating them until you take control of that thought process and the way that you respond to your life circumstances. So those things will keep repeating. Those relationships you keep getting into, they're going to keep repeating. Those bosses that drive you crazy, they're going to keep repeating. And what's the common denominator? You. So until you take control of you, the way you're responding, and the story you're telling yourself, that stuff's going to be on repeat. So I like thinking in that terms, because it's like, okay, this is happening again. Oh, I got to start taking more control of this story and myself, my response.
And there's always time to let go. There's never like a wrong time to let go. That's one of the things that I hear you're saying. And you're talking about the photo shoot and the lighting and sometimes a photo doesn't turn out the way we want. What happens? We just change the lighting, we change the setting, and we start again. Same with video, same with life. And so one of the things that I'd love for you to share, and I'm conscious of the time, we only just have a few minutes left. If someone listening right now is saying, okay, this is all fine and dandy, and like you were saying, this is so real, this is my life, this is my livelihood, right? Especially when it comes to relationship or work or finances, all that. What is your response? What are the simple hacks somebody can apply right now to let go?
Well, I think what I said in the beginning, sort of having a visual aid, allowing some space in your body to feel the difference. And when you start to feel different, you're going to start to wake up a little bit of like, we're onto something here. Maybe this is happening for me. And I think that it's playing, again, I think I've talked about this before, is that what if game. What if, maybe just start playing with some different ways that you can start looking at things. What if this was supposed to be happening this way? What if I was supposed to lose that job? What if I'm supposed to lose whatever's happening in my life? What if I'm supposed to take some downtime? What if all of this is happening for me? Okay, if you're asking yourself that question, you're going to start to answer your own questions. And it doesn't have to be right, it doesn't have to be wrong. And guess what? Here's the trick. There is no right and wrong. This is your life. This is how you get to experience it. And this is you just really redefining the story about what is happening. And so I think one of the biggest hacks for me, again, is that laying it down, the setting it down, giving it away. And just ask yourself, what if at this moment I'm not supposed to have that thing? What does that free me up to do? And so when we start to ask those different questions, we're going to start to get some better and different answers. And I think that once we start that, we're going to kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. We're going to start to have some different thoughts, and they're going to be really new, and they're going to be, when things are new, they're way more uncertain. We tend to go back to our old familiar ways a lot more often, even if we don't like the old familiar ways, because we know what to expect back there. So giving yourself some patience, some understanding, some boundaries around looking at it differently. It doesn't mean that's set in stone forever. Kind of getting out of our heads that this is forever. This is not forever. This is right now. So if this is changing right now, what else does this free me up to do? So I hope that helps, because I want to create it really simple for people, because it will be new, it will be different, and new and different can be scary. And so giving yourselves just space to play. We've got the beautiful space of time right now. And so why not take advantage of that beautiful space of time to play around a little bit, play around with some different ideas about what this could mean. And then just see what resonates with you, and just start to sit in that for a little bit. Just sit in it. And above all else, be there to see other people and allow yourself to be seen and heard. Find yourself that support system where you can start to bounce these ideas off of one another. And if you don't have it in your personal life, reach out amongst Hack Mankind. This is a community where people are looking to see life differently, because people in our lives, they're used to the familiar us. They're used to us responding in a certain way. Even if they don't like the way we're responding, it's still familiar to them. So giving yourself patience and forgiveness with yourself and with other people during this time of asking yourself these other questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. Really appreciate it. Love our calls together. I am going to let go certain things that I haven't. So thank you for this beautiful reminder. For those tuning in right now, you make sure to listen to the recording and have access to all the other recordings on www.hackmankind.com. We're soon launching Hack Mankind 2.0, where you will have access to all of that in a organized fashion, so you can have access to not only Sarah's call, but all our other panelists' calls. So I'm very excited to be here, to be launching this new site, and we will be here every single week with Sarah. Next week, it might be a change. It might be a recording, or maybe change of schedule. We'll have all that information for you. If you submit your email at www.hackmankind.com, you will receive all the schedule and stay in the loop. We will not put you in the dark. And remember, what are the things that you're going to let go? I'd love to hear that on the comments below. Share that. If you have any questions, any concerns, any thoughts, share that as well, so we can answer them on our next call. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a beautiful day, Sarah. I know it's the morning for you. For those tuning in, wherever you are, have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye.
Aloha. Thank you, guys.